Discover the new Burkina Faso under Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Today, we're diving into the powerful story of the new Burkina Faso under Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below where you're watching from. Burkina Faso, a landlocked nation in West Africa, often overlooked on the world map. For decades, it has been known for poverty, political instability, and deadly insurgencies. But in recent years, something unexpected has happened. A young military officer, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, has emerged as a revolutionary leader, sparking comparisons to Thomas Sankara, the legendary figure who once dreamed of a self-reliant Africa. Today, under Traoré's bold leadership, Burkina Faso is attempting to rewrite its destiny. This is the story of the new Burkina Faso, a nation fighting for sovereignty, economic independence, and Pan-African revival. In September 2022, Burkina Faso was in crisis. Armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS were spreading across the country, killing civilians and displacing millions. The government was losing control, and morale in the army was collapsing. That's when 34-year-old Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a relatively unknown artillery officer, made a bold move. He led a coup against then-leader Paul-Henri Damiba, accusing him of failing to protect the nation. When Traoré appeared on national television for the first time, wearing his military fatigues and a red beret, many saw echoes of Thomas Sankara, the revolutionary who ruled Burkina Faso in the 1980s. But Traoré was different. He was the youngest head of state in the world at the time, a man who refused to take the presidential salary and insisted on keeping his rank as captain, not general. His message was clear. This was not about personal power. It was about saving Burkina Faso. In April 2025, Traoré made a historic announcement, the beginning of what he called the Progressive and Popular Revolution. This movement promised to restore dignity, independence, and hope to a country weary of war and dependency on foreign aid. For decades, Burkina Faso had been tied to international lenders, the IMF, the World Bank, and Western governments, who dictated its economic policies. But Traoré took a radical turn. He rejected loans, cut ties with exploitative contracts, and began redirecting resources toward national development. To many Africans, this was a daring stand against neo-colonialism. To critics, it was a gamble that could isolate the country. But for ordinary Burkinabe people, it was a message of pride. We can build our own future. One of Traoré's most striking reforms was the redistribution of wealth within the government. He slashed the salaries of ministers and parliamentarians by nearly 30%. At the same time, civil servants, the teachers, nurses, and soldiers who keep the nation running, saw their wages increase by as much as 50%. Traoré himself declined the privileges of a president. No luxury cars, no extravagant palace. He lived like a soldier among his men. Beyond symbolism, real industries began to take shape. A tomato processing plant opened, reducing dependency on imported food. A new cotton processing facility allowed farmers to earn more from their harvests. The nation's first locally assembled electric vehicle, called Itawa, rolled off production lines. And perhaps most importantly, raw gold exports were halted. Instead, Burkina Faso began investing in local refineries to process its own resources. Agriculture, the backbone of the economy, also received a boost. Thousands of tractors, tillers, water pumps, and seeds were distributed to farmers. In villages across the country, harvests of millet, rice, and tomatoes increased. Soldiers themselves began raising chickens and planting pineapples as part of a national campaign of self-reliance. The result? In just 2 years, Burkina Faso's GDP jumped from about $18.8 billion to over $22 billion. For a country long trapped in poverty, this was a remarkable achievement. But Traoré's revolution was not only economic, it was also cultural. He revived the memory of Thomas Sankara, the African Che Guevara, who once inspired the continent with visions of unity and self-determination. A grand mausoleum for Sankara was inaugurated, designed by world-renowned architect Francis Kéré. Streets were renamed, slogans revived, and schoolchildren were taught about Burkina Faso's proud revolutionary history. Traoré also reached beyond his country's borders. Together with Mali and Niger, Burkina Faso formed the Alliance of Sahel States, a military and economic bloc dedicated to mutual defense and sovereignty. This confederation became a symbol of Pan-African solidarity, challenging the dominance of former colonial powers. To young Africans across the continent, Traoré became a symbol of defiance and hope, proof that Africa could rise on its own terms. But while Traoré's reforms inspired many, the reality on the ground remained brutal. The insurgency in Burkina Faso did not disappear. Jihadist groups continued launching deadly attacks, particularly in the north and east of the country. In one of the worst incidents, the Mansilla attack, over 100 Burkinabe soldiers lost their lives. Millions of civilians were forced to flee their homes, creating one of the world's largest internal displacement crises. To respond, Traoré launched a program of general mobilization. Tens of thousands of civilians were recruited into volunteer defense units. Entire villages dug trenches and built barricades to protect themselves. But this militarization came at a cost. Some volunteers were poorly trained and tragically lost their lives in large numbers. Despite his efforts, vast areas of Burkina Faso remained outside government control. This is the harsh paradox of Traoré's leadership, a vision of sovereignty and renewal, but also the ongoing reality of war. Another controversy surrounding Traoré is his handling of democracy. When he seized power in 2022, he promised a short transition, elections by July 2024. But that deadline passed. The transition was extended by 5 years, meaning Burkina Faso may not see elections until 2029. Meanwhile, political parties were suspended. Several independent media outlets were shut down. Critics, including journalists and activists, have been arrested, abducted, or forced into military service. To his supporters, this is necessary discipline in a time of war. To his critics, it is the mark of authoritarianism. So who is Ibrahim Traoré really? To his supporters, he is a new Sankara, a humble soldier who sacrifices luxury, refuses corruption, and gives power back to the people. They see him as the face of Africa's rebirth, a leader who dared to reject the West, embrace Pan-African unity, and invest in real industries instead of foreign debts. But to his critics, he is a populist strongman, a man who concentrates power, silences dissent, and risks isolating Burkina Faso at a time when international partnerships are badly needed. Perhaps the truth lies in both views, a leader caught between ideals and the harsh realities of governing a nation under siege. As the sun rises over Ouagadougou, one thing is certain: Burkina Faso is changing. For the first time in decades, the country is daring to dream of independence, economically, culturally, and politically. But the road ahead is uncertain. Will Traoré's revolution succeed in building a prosperous, self-reliant nation, or will it collapse under the weight of insurgency, isolation, and authoritarian rule? The story of the new Burkina Faso is still being written, and its outcome may shape not only the destiny of one small nation, but also the future of Africa itself. This is not just the story of Captain Ibrahim Traoré. It is the story of a people refusing to be defined by despair and daring instead to fight for dignity. Thank you for watching. If you found this story inspiring, make sure to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories from Africa and around the world. Until next time, stay informed, stay inspired.